Hello, BookTube, and welcome to ShakeTube 2019. This is a, by now, fairly old, by BookTube standards, event that I'm doing with Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse and Lukash at Totally Pretentious, where we go through and celebrate Shakespeare plays in the month of September. And once again, we are doing our approach is partially a la carte. We're all three of us doing three separate plays in the first 3 weeks of the month, and then in the final week of the month, we're all doing the same play. And Lukash picked my plays this time around. I did not. There was definitely a theme in his choices for me. There were these. He picked what he considered, I think, to be neglected plays of Shakespeare. That would be the euphemistic and the kind way to put it. I would say what most general readers would say the crappy plays of Shakespeare. The only exception being the crappy play that we're all three doing together at the end of the month. The final week is going to be more concerted and intelligent critical attention being paid to the Two Gentlemen of Rhoda than it deserves by a factor of 5,000. But we did Coriolanus. He picked Coriolanus, which is not a particularly effective play. It's not particularly good. It doesn't do a whole lot of what we go to Shakespeare for. It does a whole lot of what we could go to, the general ruck of Jacobean theater to do, but it doesn't do much that makes you say, "Oh, that's more than that." And today is Timon of Athens, which does nothing of that. It does very little that is Shakespearean. It does nothing at all. It's just a bad play. It's about to summarize the plot very basically. It really doesn't deserve a whole lot of attention. The plot involves an Athenian nobleman who's very wealthy and who lavishes wealth on all sorts of people without realizing that they are hangers-on for his wealth, and that they aren't in love with him at all. And the long and excruciating root canal of the play is him having those disillusions shattered. Any 8-year-old watching the first act of this play would say, "Well, that guy's kind of dumb. Everybody knows what people are like." But if you're going to write a bad play, then the thing you're going to do is create a protagonist who is a living, breathing straw man, who is the only person who doesn't know what people are like, so that he can then find out what people are like. That's not the same thing as a doting father having the scales knocked from his eyes as to the true nature of his daughters. That's a different thing. But having a grown man figure out that there are greedy people in the world and be really, really cheesed by it, it would take an active, participating genius to make it work as a play. And Shakespeare is certainly not active in this play at all, anywhere. And there's also a large scholarly debate as to how present he is. There's ongoing debate as to the authorship of this play, in whole or in part, certainly in large chunks. I think the last time I bothered to research it at all, I think that Thomas Middleton was being fingered just for stylometric reasons as the likely author of a lot of this, or a likely collaborator. I've often thought that is an insult to Middleton. If you're reading Middleton, if you're reading his great plays, you don't want to lay this mess at his door at all. There's nothing dramatically compelling. There's nothing that's quotable. There's nothing that's funny. There's nothing that does that particular Shakespearean thing where it steps out of its context and is playable in 18th century Japan. The great Shakespeare does that, seems to do it effortlessly, and is the reason we keep coming back to this author. And one of the surefire yardsticks that I've always used with people at literary gatherings or whatever, gladly, I don't go to a lot of those anymore. One of the surefire yardsticks I would always use to know whether or not someone was full of sheep dip is if they started to just apostrophize about Shakespeare, and if the very idea that he ever did any bad work was to them, you just don't understand the bard. Whenever anybody does that, I always want to just make them forego the cocaine for 15 minutes, sit down in that corner and read a random act or the whole play of Timon of Athens and see what you think. And so I don't really have a whole lot to say on the play. I mean, this is my ShakeTube entry for this week, and mainly it's an odd ShakeTube entry because I'm going to urge you not to waste time on this play. If you look it up on Shakespeare.com or Wikipedia or whatever, or you look in your Shakespeare guides, the one by DK is something I strongly recommend, and you see the standard speculation about how this was, in part or in whole, co-written by, for instance, Thomas Middleton. If you see that, and you're not a college student, you don't have a part of a grade relying on this, then forego the play and read Thomas Middleton, who I guarantee you haven't read and who is really good. so just do that. There is no reason to read Timon of Athens as opposed to reading The Changeling. There is no reason to do that, except for bardolatry. And we want to avoid bardolatry even in an event called ShakeTube. so I don't really have much else to say on Timon of Athens. It isn't good. There's no real House of Cards, effort of sophistry that you can do that will make it good. And I would strongly advise you, as I remember the blood on the walls from the last time, 25 years ago, when somebody tried, I would strongly advise you, if you feel like doing that, don't do it around me. Because I know this play, and I won't let you do it. It's not just that you're being a pretentious a-hole, it's that you're degrading Shakespeare. The great Shakespeare, the real Shakespeare. The Shakespeare is not phoning something in out of his tuchus over a bored weekend. So if you're going to do that sort of stuff, then wow your dorm room floor, but don't do it with me. And that's basically it. We'll move on next time to another play that I think Lukács was thinking was third-rate, not often commented on, neglected. But it's a different kind of story completely. Completely. Next weekend, we will be talking about Shakespeare's Henry VIII. And we have plenty to talk about. But until then, we're just gonna wrap it up for now. What's that I hear? What's that I hear? You're wondering what Harold Bloom thinks of Timon of Athens? Well, shall we consult? Shall we consult with Harold Bloom? What does he see? Let's see here. In the power of Timon's utterance, we are halfway between scourging prophecy and self-satire, but that is Timon's perpetual dilemma, and the expressive genius of this extreme drama. Lear's curses, even at their wildest, maintain a certain royal decorum. Timon is beyond any restraints, social or political, and he has no inwardness to check him. What can we do with such hatred, particularly when Shakespeare has done nothing to foreground or otherwise account for Timon's zeal against sexuality? Naturally, Harold centers in on the syphilis part of the play. But he also holds no water for the play, especially because in the course of this book, this is Shakespeare, The Invention of the Human, the undergirding thesis of the book, if you can call it that, is Bloom saying that Shakespeare not only invented a new way for humans to regard themselves in art, but that he always did that it was an intrinsic quality of his art, that he couldn't put quill pen to paper without doing that. And Timon of Athens is a living, breathing refutation of that thesis. So, of course, Bloom has to tread lightly around it, and that's what he does. But next time, we'll be dealing with very different kind of play. Very different in every way. The only similarity that Henry VIII has with Timon of Athens is that it is dramatically inert. That's the only similarity. Other than that, everything else is different, and we're going to talk about it. So I will see you next time for ShakeTube 2019. And be sure to watch Jason and Lukács, because they're going to have videos this weekend, same as me. And they're fun to watch, and they have, to put it mildly, more substantial plays to deal with this weekend than I do. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.